In watching the trial of the former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin on trial for the alleged murder of George Floyd, I couldn't help but think about the great Tom Wolfe novel, 1990, called The Bonfire of the Vanities. Overarching theme of the book is the search for what Wolfe calls the great white defendant. And this is somebody that is a privileged, pampered white person. In the case of the novel, he was a bond trader on Wall Street, and he serves all kinds of purposes. He advances the narrative that the DAs like, because the DAs, the book says, are sick and tired of prosecuting minorities for committing crimes. How wonderful it is to prosecute a rich white guy. And in the case of blacks love, says Tom Wolfe, reading about white guys who are comforted, who get in trouble. And it advances the interest of ambitious DAs who would rather prosecute a high-profile white guy than black guys.
Yesterday, I was a respected Jewish liberal. 10 minutes of news like this, and all of a sudden, I'm a highly racist pig? Italians are gonna love this. Irish, too. And the wasps. They love this more than anybody. They love laughing at me. All the rich sons they still think they own this town. Hey, sitting there, co-ops, Park Avenue, 5th, Beekman Place, snug like a bug, 12-foot ceilings, one wing for them, one for the help. They think money's gonna protect them. You stupid sons of I'd like to light a fire under all their lily white. Let them see what this feels like. Let the whole third world see the smoke and come after them. Let them feel what it's like when every Puerto Rican, West Indian, Cuban, Korean, Albanian, Filipino black man from every corner of every borough. You don't think the future knows how to cross a bridge? You laugh. You laugh. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna turn this thing around. If it kills us, we are gonna prove to these black mother, pardon my language, Howard, we are gonna prove to these that this administration loves them, no matter what it takes. I am no racist Jaime. By November, they are gonna be thinking of me as the first black district attorney of Bronx County. Huh? Yeah. They're gonna beg me to be mayor, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna walk away with that election.
No question.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yes.
If we have to screw every white from Albany to Park Avenue, that's what we're gonna do.
Nobody, but nobody, Wolfe writes, is upset about the narrative of systemic racism, a narrative that is even more prominent when he wrote about it back in 1990.
This is a country that has been defined by foundational, systemic, endemic racism since the very founding of this country, August 20th of 1619.
And it's important to own up to the facts about how race has totally permeated our criminal justice system.
Reports of systemic racism in the healthcare system, and COVID-19 has made the issue even more urgent.
When racism exists, the question isn't who isn't a racist, it's who is and isn't doing something about racism. And this is not just an issue that started yesterday. It's not just an issue that we hear a president that can't condemn white supremacy. We have systemic racism that is eroding our nation from healthcare to the criminal justice system.
Joe Biden also understands that we must end systemic racism in this country.
On his 7th day in office,
So now's the time to act.
President Biden moved to define his presidency in terms not often heard at the White House, emphasizing racial equity and systemic racism.
It's very, very refreshing to have the leader of the free world to use language like systemic racism.
You think our economy is going to be shielded from these massive Biden tax increases? Think again. There's only one way to protect your savings, and that is to do what 10,000 other savvy investors have done, and that is to convert a portion of your retirement accounts into gold and silver with Birch Gold. When inflation hits, and it will, gold and silver will be your safe haven. Who is Birch Gold Group? As one of the top dealers of physical precious metals in the United States, Birch Gold Group helps Americans diversify their savings with gold and silver. Customers can purchase for physical possession or convert a portion of their IRA or 401k into an IRA backed by physical precious metals. Looking back historically, when the bottom falls out of everything, gold acts as a hedge. And I trust Birch Gold Group to convert your IRA or eligible 401k into an IRA backed by gold and silver. And through April 30th, on qualifying purchases, when you open a precious metals IRA with Birch Gold, they will send you a free home safe. You can't beat that. Text Larry to 474747 to get your free info kit and claim your eligibility for a free safe with qualifying purchase by April 30th. That's text Larry to 474747 because we've got a country to save. So newspapers sell papers because of systemic racism. Democrats get power because of systemic racism, and ambitious politicians can use that for their advantage. Which brings us to the trial of the tragic death of George Floyd.
It's a Monday evening in Minneapolis. Police respond to a call about a man who allegedly used a counterfeit $20 bill to buy cigarettes. 17 minutes later, the man they are there to investigate lies motionless on the ground and is pronounced dead shortly after. The man was 46-year-old George Floyd, a bouncer originally from Houston who'd lost his job at a restaurant when the coronavirus pandemic hit. Floyd's death triggered major protests in Minneapolis and sparked rage across the country.
Here inside CNN Center, where just in the last 10 minutes, demonstrators have started to come up and down this thoroughfare of Marietta and break out windows of CNN Center. It was just a short time ago that they started shooting what appeared to be BBs at us. I was struck with a BB pellet. It's unreal to witness here, Chris. This police line, we just saw an officer extracted. An officer was down. We don't know exactly how they were injured. Another officer here that was standing on these steps took some glass in the arm. These demonstrators are ready to confront these law enforcement officers. You have law enforcement in heavy tactical gear, protesters that are, clearly ready. You just see something else happen there. Another demonstrator threw what appeared to be a large object at one of those SWAT officers.
The situation here in Santa Monica, California is very fluid. You can see police here now firing tear gas into the crowd. They are trying to push these folks back. Earlier today, just a few blocks away, there was looting underway nearby. Police seem to have had enough.
The nation erupted into scenes of chaos, violence, and widespread destruction into the early morning hours. Dozens of American cities up in flames after some protests turned into riots.
Overnight, Minneapolis on fire. Protesters leaving an auto parts store in flames. Others seen looting a local Target.
Tonight was a different night of protesting.
All of it after demonstrators approached one of the city's police precincts.
We're about to lose the front of the precinct if we don't move this crowd out of the front.
Officers in riot gear tried to maintain order.
You can see the smoke bombs in the distance, and police have been firing pepper spray to try and disperse this crowd. Hundreds of protesters had gathered here, and now police are trying to push them back to keep the peace.
As we mentioned, the Minnesota police officer who was seen kneeling on Floyd's neck has been arrested and charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter. This as more protests are planned all across the country.
Now, here are the charges they're deliberating. We want to go over this one more time. Second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The most serious charge, that second-degree unintentional murder. Chauvin could face 12.5 years in prison or longer if found guilty. The jury could convict on all 3 charges or on none of them.
Now, as you saw in the news clip, Chauvin faces 3 charges, the most serious of which could get him in prison for 40 years.
You will learn that he was well aware that Mr. Floyd was unarmed, that Mr. Floyd had not threatened anyone, that Mr. Floyd was in handcuffs, he was completely in the control of the police, he was defenseless. You will learn what happened in that 9 minutes and 29 seconds. The most important numbers you will hear in this trial are 929. What happened in those 9 minutes and 29 seconds when Mr. Derek Chauvin was applying this excessive force to the body of Mr. George Floyd.
Now, HLN has been covering the trial of Derek Chauvin gavel to gavel 24/7. And every now and then they'll cut away and they will bump in and out with a flag torn by two fists that says America's very soul is on trial. America's very soul is on trial, police. Even in their opening statement, the prosecution made it clear that the Minneapolis Police Department was not on trial, let alone America.
In this trial, you're going to meet any number of the men and women from the Minneapolis Police Department who do a fantastic job. They're committed, take very seriously preserving the sanctity of life. I mentioned already Commander Katie Blackwell, Sergeant Carrie Yang, Officer Nicole McKenzie, to name a few. This case is about Mr. Derek Chauvin and not about any of those men and women, and it's not about all policing at all.
Are you kidding? 7,000 black homicide victims last year. That averages to 575 per month, 19 per day, as opposed to 2 unarmed blacks killed by the police per month. And unarmed does not mean not dangerous. Mike Brown's DNA was found on the officer's gun, and the police kill more unarmed whites every year than they kill unarmed blacks. But that doesn't seem to matter a whole lot. Now, a Black Lives Matter activist named Maya Echols says that if Derek Chauvin is not convicted, America's cities will burn.
If George Floyd's murderer is not sentenced, just know that all hell is going to break loose. Don't be surprised when buildings are on fire. Just saying.
Just saying. And Maxine Waters says she's hopeful of a conviction because she feels that Derek Chauvin is guilty, 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 close quote, guilty. But if not,
we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
Again, no HLN. America's very soul is not on trial. Have you discussed a recent weekend in Chicago?
A 7-year-old girl is dead, shot and killed in a McDonald's drive-thru on Chicago's West Side. And CBS 2's Stephen Graves talked with the family of Jaslyn Adams, who are begging people to put away their guns.
Really emotional right now for my family.
Tearful, pain-filled words from Jaslyn Adams' aunt as she remembers the 7-year-old as funny and joyful.
She just was sweet and outgoing, real talkative, real lovable.
Family spoke from right outside Stroger Hospital where the girl died. A Chicago police officer rushing her here from about 2 miles away inside this bullet-ridden car. It was sitting in a McDonald's drive-thru at Roosevelt and Kedzie. At least 30 shell casings surrounded the vehicle.
And HLN, how about St. Louis, a town that's 45% black last year? Of the 300 homicides, 90% black on black. And in a recent weekend,
St. Louis City Police are investigating after 45-year-old Elijah Newman was shot and killed in the Bayton neighborhood Thursday night while working as a Lyft driver. It's unclear at this time if he was picking up or dropping off a rider. The shooting happened just before 11 along the 1200 block of Peggy Court. Newman was shot in the torso and died at the scene. Family and friends describe Newman as a loving father of 5 and a devoted husband that they will forever cherish.
Baltimore, last year, the city of 65% black, 400 homicides, again, 90% black on black.
Turning now to a story we've been following all day, a violent weekend in Baltimore City. At least 10 people were shot between Good Friday and Monday morning. One of the most recent incidents, 5 people shot on Utah Street.
With people like Maxine Waters saying that Derek Chauvin is very guilty, and says that if he does not get convicted, she's going to be in the streets with the protesters. And with HLN saying things like America's very soul is on trial, all you're doing is laying the groundwork to tell people if the verdict does not go the way they want, they have a moral right to go in the streets, as happened after the death of George Floyd.
Corboy Bala was getting ready for the grand opening of his sports bar in March when COVID-19 brought the country to a halt. And just as he was planning for a phased reopening, the building was burnt down this week amidst the protests. Corboy, thank you so much for joining us right now. You are a member of this community. You are a firefighter, a father, and you've invested your life savings into this bar. I do want to be very frank with you. When we talked to our producers today and our booking team, you were the only person I really wanted to talk to tonight, because I wanted to hear from a business owner who, first of all, lost so much with COVID-19 and now has pretty much lost everything because of some of this violence. Where is your mind at tonight?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be on right now. It's been kind of surreal what have happened. It was a long process just getting where I was as far as with the business, and to just see it go away in a split of a day was kind of crazy. So it still feels like a dream, actually.
You said 41 million people lost their job in 10 weeks. It's estimated that 40-50% will not come back to those jobs, bro. You said Black Lives Matter. Why don't you choke me? I'm black. Tell him, sister. Look what you did to my store. Tell him, sister. No.
We just had a completely peaceful protest walk right by this area where a business that was looted and the owners were attacked yesterday, actually over the weekend, when they were trying to come back and clean up. They saw on their surveillance video right here, this Orange Theory Fitness, you see all the windows have been broken into and boarded up at this point. But they saw here on their surveillance video people coming in and looting. They wanted to come out and help and show support for those who are peaceful protesters. And that's when they say they were attacked. You can see in the surveillance video windows being broken out during the chaos in Chicago's South Loop late Saturday night. Looters ducking in to take what they can.
I could see the glass being completely just shattered, blown out by some object that they threw through the window.
Owner Adrienne Alvarez and her husband compelled to come to their Orange Theory Fitness franchise in the early hours of Sunday morning.
We weren't necessarily trying to defend the business, but we wanted to go clean up. We wanted to let people know we were in support. We wanted to just be there.
But as her husband Ralph was trying to clean up outside, Alvarez says she turned to see him on the ground in front of a large crowd, unconscious.
I started to scream. I tried to wake him. He wouldn't wake back up. And I tried to call for the police. No one was picking up. I tried to call from the phone in there. No one was picking up. And people just kept coming by and just looking at him, and I wanted him to wake up.
When she went to help him, that's when she says she was attacked.
A woman came out of nowhere and hit me over the back with the crowbar.
Alvarez finally got through to 911 on her cell phone. She says her husband was taken to Stroger Hospital with a serious head injury.
Now, inevitably, when buildings burn and there's a loss of life, someone's going to say, well, Martin Luther King once said that riots are the language of the unheard. Really? 2 points. When Martin Luther King said that, one could be reasonably assured of less than a thorough investigation because white people were in charge. That's not the case now. Look at all the black mayors we have of major American cities. And second, Martin Luther King said that riots are ultimately socially destructive and self-defeating. And did you miss the part where he says, and I will continue to tell my brothers and sisters with love, this is not the way?
Let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve, that in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots.
Finally, as you know, the former President Donald Trump is accused by the media of engaging in an incitement to insurrection because he gave a speech where he said, "I want people to peacefully march and let their complaints be known." Will Maxine Waters be called an inciter of insurrection if the Derek Chauvin verdict does not go the way she wants and people take to the streets and burn and loot and possibly kill? Will she be accused of engaging in the big lie? Probably not. I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. And I'll see you next time. Well, LeBron James did it again. This time he weighed in on the shooting of a black teenager by a Columbus police officer.
The 911 caller reported a female was trying to stab them. The girl was taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead.
I ask for everyone to pray for peace.
So LeBron James deleted the tweet. When it comes to this, you're clueless.
And I still stand by that we cannot treat all police shootings in the same way. It is tragic. It is terrible.
Man, I am tired of people always going out there for likes and followers. Where's the love in the leaders? LeBron James, he failed in that moment.
So if you want Elder Uncensored and on demand, EpicTV.com, because we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.